One of the most important topics that HMRC are spending their time on is whether someone has been involved in tax evasion or tax avoidance. Tax evasion being a criminal matter, tax avoidance being simply a proper way of not paying tax due under a legitimate scheme. As a result of my background, which is 30 years as a criminal barrister, of which part of it was spent in the city and city institutions, I have developed an understanding of the tax scheme which will allow me to properly advise someone as to the proper difference and the fine line between the two. And there often is a fine line. It's a line which HMRC don't always either want to or do appreciate, because clearly it's in their interest to collect as much tax as possible. That's perfectly legitimate. But it's also proper that it should only be tax which is due to them, and they should only make allegations which are based upon proper criminal material. Tax evasion being the first, tax avoidance being the latter, what I do is I stand between the client and the HMRC in these circumstances, and I ensure that HMRC focus their approach, which should not be vigorous or too aggressive and can often be very scary for those involved in it. They focus their approach on the details of the scheme itself, asking them to take into account, for example, whether it was entered into by virtue of proper independent advice taken in good faith, whether the rationale of the scheme was such that it was a perfectly legitimate scheme or appeared to be so at the time it was entered into. That approach applies whether it be pre-charge, simply suspicion, or if the worst comes and someone is actually accused and charged and they have to appear in court. What I bring therefore to these particular set of circumstances is unique experience and a practical ability to say, please take another look at this, it is not all it seems, and HMRC are not always right.